Good morning. Let me welcome you to our 2014-2015 Constitution program. At this time, if we have any school board members or central office staff, would you please stand so we can recognize you? And because of the lights, I can't see. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Just wanted to recognize them and thank y'all for coming today. You can't see them yet, but the uniforms that our students are wearing today were purchased by our PTO, and our PTO does an outstanding job of raising money for us to have things such as this. But when the students come out in just a minute, just so you know, the PTO has done an outstanding job of purchasing these uniforms, these costumes for our young people to perform in. At this time, I need for all of you to stand. All right, students. At this time, we want to take a moment to remember all of the young men and women that were lost on 9/11. So we will have a moment of silence for those, if you would, please. Thank you. Please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem.
Please stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The song of our national anthem was penned by Washington attorney Francis Scott Key during the War of 1812. On the night of September the 13th, 1814, Key watched as our country was attacked by the British Navy at Fort McHenry. After watching the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air throughout the night, dawn broke. Key was expecting to find Baltimore firmly under British control, but was stunned to see a battered but still flying American flag waving in the sunrise. So inspired was Key that he wrote the poem, The Star-Spangled Banner. It became America's national anthem in 1931. At this time, I would like to ask National Society of the Daughters of American Revolution, Miss Peggy Green, to come forward.
Good morning. As the regent of the DAR, I'd like to tell you how special this program is. Oh, it's just so wonderful. When the children came in, y'all, it was just like we were there in 1787. So I want all of you children to pretend like you're going back in time. The Constitution is our national treasure, and we appreciate these children bringing it to life. If you're a member of the DAR, would you please stand? Great. Thank you so much. Thank you also. I don't want to call out so many people helped to do this program, but Mr. Jason Weems has done some original artwork, so we would like to thank you when I present that. I want to present the following certificates of appreciation. You don't have to come down now. I'll get these to you. The Upson North Elementary PTO. All the children got a poster, and all the children have signed another poster. And Josh Sermons, he is teaching out in the South, but he's been at the high school, he's in a class, but I want to thank him for our help. D.A. Scott Ballard, I want to thank him. We'll see him later. And Marie Green Broder, we'll see her in a minute, and I'll present all these later. Jamie Joyner is up in the sound booth. I want to appreciate, thank you so much. Now, without further ado, I'm going to let some of our children that are waiting to enter come on and enter. Mr. Watley. And while we're doing that, I'm going to call on Miss Marie Green Broder. She's the assistant DA in Spalding County, and y'all may have recognized Marie Green. That's my daughter, and the way I recruited her, I asked her what she thought about the Constitution, and she said it's a treasure. And I said, really? What do you think? She said it's our ultimate national treasure. And so, yeah, and I said, you have a job. You're the narrator. So anyway, I want to thank her for doing it.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. It is truly an honor to be here today. I have been raised by one of the Constitution's ultimate defenders, Peggy Green. She loves the Constitution about as much as anybody I know, and so it's truly an honor to be here and narrate this program. It's funny, normally when she introduces me, she says, this is my daughter, Marie Green Broder, mother of my granddaughter, Margaret Broder, so that's how I'm known to her today, but it's good to know I was just the daughter today. Well, today we are gathered here to celebrate the anniversary of the writing of the Constitution. So I'm going to take you back in time for a moment, back to May in 1787, when 55 delegates arrived in Philadelphia for the Grand Convention. The meeting began on May 25th in the Philadelphia State House, and it lasted for 4 long months. Today we are going to join these 4th graders as they reenact the development and the signing of the United States Constitution. Now, before any work can begin, let me tell you about how the Grand Convention came into being. The government at the time was the Articles of Confederation. It was very weak and it was ineffective. So the delegates were called together to meet to discuss a new government. Now, to set the scene, I have to give you a few details. The meeting was in the State House, which was right across the street from the state prison. The street in front of the State House was very noisy, so the city spent money to cover the road with a lot of sand in order to cut down on some of the noise. The city was in the middle of an impressive heat wave. There was an outbreak of blue bottle flies, and these flies would swarm at people, animals, buildings, etc., and they would beat against the windows of buildings and made an awful racket. The prisoners in the jail would shout at passerbys begging for money, and if the person would not give them money, then they would be jeered and cursed. The prisoners would have long begging poles held out of the prison bars in which sacks were attached to so many people so they could place their coins in them. In other words, not a pleasant environment. Nevertheless, the Constitution was born. Also during that time, the song Yankee Doodle was popular. Do y'all all remember that song? It's one of my favorites growing up. The song was sung quite often in and around our young country during this time. The British used to sing it in order to ridicule our Minutemen, but we later adopted it and began singing it. Now, when I was little and I heard the part macaroni in the song, I actually thought that they were talking about a physical piece of macaroni in a hat. But actually, macaroni meant fashionable and stylish, so it was cool to have macaroni in your hat at the time. Now the chorus will sing Yankee Doodle for us, and feel free to join if you remember the song. That was wonderful. Now we are ready for the grand convention to begin. First, we have James Madison Jr., also known as Jimmy. Jimmy was a delegate from Virginia, and he arrived 11 days early. He was excited and eager to begin. He came to Philadelphia with a written plan of government. Jimmy Madison recorded everything that was said at the meeting. He did not miss a single day. He is known as the father of the Constitution. George Washington, also a delegate from Virginia, arrived on May 13th of 1787. He was delayed due to stomach difficulties. He was elected president of the convention. Now, we will begin with a roll call of the delegates from each state in attendance at the convention. William Samuel Johnson, Connecticut. Also, I'm sorry, my mistake. This is Connecticut. William Samuel Johnson. Roger Sherman. Also known as the Great Compromiser. Some said that he never said a foolish thing in his life. Is that true, parents? Oliver Ellsworth. On a visit to a museum in Philadelphia, Mr. Ellsworth saw a mummy. He cut a piece of the mummy's flesh off and tasted it. He said that it tasted of old smoked beef. Mr. Ellsworth, are you eating some now? Yeah? Good. Next up, we have Delaware. And from Delaware, we have George Reed. Gunning Bedford Jr. John Dickinson. Now, he spent all of his free time writing to his 4-year-old daughter, Maria. He was in favor of the United States becoming one nation. Richard Bassett. And Jacob Broom. Next, we have the great state of Georgia. That's right. From Georgia, we have William Pugh. Also from Georgia, Abraham Baldwin, who is credited with beginning Georgia's public education system. Go Dogs. William Houston. And William L. Pierce. Next up, Maryland. And from Maryland, we have James McHenry. Daniel of St. Thomas Jennifer. It's quite the name. Daniel Carroll. And Luther Martin. Now, Mr. Martin did not return his library books and blamed his servants for failing to do it. He liked the sound of his own voice so much that once he began talking, he was unable to stop. Mr. Martin put Benjamin Franklin to sleep and caused James Madison to stop writing. He went home early from the convention. John F. Mercer. He also left the convention. Next up, Massachusetts. From Massachusetts, Nathaniel Gorham. Rufus King. Now, he never returned his library books and also blamed it on his servants. What is the deal with not returning your library books? Elbridge Gerry. He was nicknamed Grumble-tonian behind his back. He hated any use of the word nation. He stayed through the convention but did not sign it at the last minute because of the lack of Bill of Rights. He just also complained and worried too much. Next up, Caleb Strong. New Hampshire. And just 2 delegates from the state of New Hampshire. First up, John Langdon. Nicholas Gilman. The state of New Jersey. I'm sure these delegates never thought the Real Housewives of New Jersey would come from them. First, William Livingston. The first Supreme Court Justice, John Jay, was married to Mr. Livingston's daughter, and he was quite wealthy. David Brearley. Very sharp-dressed individual. William Patterson. Now, he was a cheerful, modest man. I wonder if he was friends with Elbridge Gerry Grumbletonia. I wonder if they were good friends. He wanted all of the states to be equal. Jonathan Dayton. At 26, he was the youngest delegate. And William C. Houston, excuse me. Next up, New York. Alexander Hamilton. Now, he was born in the Bahamas and wanted a very strong federal government. He wrote many essays about it and was our first Secretary of the Treasury. Now, Justice John Jay was also from New York, and District Attorney Scott Ballard, who's actually my boss, will be representing him, and he will speak to us later in the program. Next up, John Lansing Jr. He left early due to an argument. Robert Yates also left early due to an argument. Was it between the two of you? Hope you've made up. North Carolina. William Blunt was from North Carolina. Richard Dobbs Spite. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Okay. Hugh Williamson. William R. Davey. And Alexander Martin. Next up, Pennsylvania. Oh, don't be sad. Pennsylvania has chocolate. Benjamin Franklin. Now, we all know Benjamin Franklin. He was the oldest delegate at 81. And he was named Sage of the Constitution. He had to be carried into the State House on a sedan chair that he had purchased in France. Franklin could not walk well due to gout and gallstones. Welcome, Mr. Franklin. Thomas Mifflin. Robert Morris. George Clymer. Thomas Fitzsimmons. Jared Ingersoll. He did not say one word during the entire convention. And remember, I told you earlier it lasted 4 months. It's kind of like Clarence Thomas on our current Supreme Court. He never says a word either. James Wilson. Gouverneur Morris. How'd I do, Mr. Morris, with that name? Is that pretty good? He was nicknamed Tall Boy. He gave 173 speeches during the convention, more than any other. Well, maybe that's why Mr. Ingersoll couldn't talk. He is credited with writing the final draft of the Constitution. Next up, South Carolina. And I'm a Georgia fan, so it pains me to say that. John Rutledge. Charles Coatsworth Pickney. Charles Pickney. Are you brothers? Yeah. Pierce Butler. Now, he did not favor forming one nation. Rhode Island actually did not attend, but we have the state here. They did not attend the convention. Virginia is next. John Blair. George Mason. James McClurg. Edmund J. Randolph. And George White. Thank you, delegates. Welcome to the convention, and you may be seated. Edmund Randolph from Virginia presented the first plan of government. This plan had 3 branches. The branches were the executive branch, headed by the president. The legislative branch, that would make the laws. The people would elect the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives would elect the Senate, a smaller body. And together, these branches would be called Congress. The third was the judiciary branch, headed by the Supreme Court. They would make sure that the laws were constitutional and properly obeyed. Randolph's plan called for a federal or national government, which would be supreme over the states. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Pierce Butler, he was from South Carolina, and he hated the thought of being a nation. That's right. John Dickinson of Delaware yelled, We are a nation. Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts still wanted the Articles of Confederation. He griped and whined about everything. The small states did not like the plan of Randolph because they felt like the large states were trying to run the show. Eventually, after voting 60 times, the delegates did agree that the legislative branch would have two houses, one president, and they would be paid out of the United States Treasury. After a day's recess, William Patterson of New Jersey stood up. He was 5'2", it's a good height, it's my height, cheerful, likable, and modest, and he did not like even one of Edmund Randolph's ideas. Patterson felt that each state should have an equal vote. He wanted one legislative body with several executives. He told Randolph that his plan was impractical, illegal, and expensive. James Madison answered Patterson's arguments. Madison tore every argument to shreds. He made Patterson look very slow. The large states and the small states, everybody, really began to argue. Luther Martin of Maryland began speaking. He talked so long and was so boring that Madison stopped writing and Ben Franklin went to sleep. The small states then threatened to walk out of the convention because they felt that the large states wanted to overpower them. George Washington knew that he had to do something, so he appointed Roger Sherman. And Mr. Sherman was from Connecticut, and he was given the job of working out a compromise, very difficult job. Roger Sherman worked out what was called the Great Compromise, and he began to walk to everyone, trying to convince them to adopt the Great Compromise. Someone said this of Sherman: he never said a foolish thing in his life, and with the Great Compromise, that was true. He said every state should have 2 members in the Senate with equal votes. The House of Representatives would have 1 representative for every 30,000 people. And for the slave states, every 5 slaves would be counted as 3. This kept the slave states from leaving the convention. Once the compromise was reached, Washington voted that all needed a 10-day vacation. I think so. Washington left Philadelphia and traveled to Trenton, New Jersey to go fishing. Now, during this 10-day vacation, it was party time at Samuel and Eliza Powell's home in Philadelphia. Mr. Samuel Powell, the former mayor of Philadelphia, and Eliza Powell hosted many parties for the delegates at their home. Benjamin Franklin was a good friend of theirs since he also lived in Philadelphia. Now let's join the Powells as they entertain. Eliza is said to have been very affable, well-informed, friendly, and full of conversation. She gave great parties and had wonderful fashion sense. That's lovely. Can you imagine if we brought that back to the clubs of today? Now, it was August 6th, 1787. There was only 6 weeks left of work after the reassembly. There are some points that delegates worked out during this time. Slave trade would end in 1808 in the North. A $10 tax on each slave would be paid by the South. A special district of 10 miles square would be set aside for the government. The delegates decided how new states would join the nation. They decided how many amendments would be added to the Constitution. And they decided if 9 out of 13 states ratified the Constitution, then they would have a nation. On September 8th of 1787, the Constitution was sent to committee to write it up in its final form. Jacob Shallis, an employee of the Pennsylvania government, was paid $30 to actually write the words on the paper. $30 for the Constitution. September 12th of 1787, the Constitution was presented to the delegates. Now, many delegates wanted a Bill of Rights included, very important part of the Constitution. Now, listen as our delegates recite these 10 basic freedoms aloud. All right, who's first? You are.
Amendment 1 gives the people freedom of speech, assembly, religion, and the press. The people also have the freedom to petition the government to redress grievances. Amendment 2 gives the people protection from militia and the right to bear arms.
Amendment 3. States where soldiers will not be housed in private homes during peacetime.
Amendment 4. A meant for states where people nor their belongings may be searched without a warrant.
Amendment 5 gives the people the right to due process of the law. People have the right to a jury trial, protection from double jeopardy, may not be a witness against himself, and private property may not be taken without just compensation.
Amendment 6 gives people the right to a speedy and fair trial, to a jury, confront witnesses against them, and to have assistance of counsel.
Amendment 7 gives the people the right of a jury trial in civil matters when the values involved are over $20 and facts tried by the jury will not be re-examined in any court of the United States. Amendment 8 gives the people protection from excessive bail or fines and unusual punishments. Amendment 9 states the rights not specifically mentioned in the Constitution should not be assumed not to exist. Amendment 10 gives the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved for the states and the people.
Great job. Now, the Bill of Rights, these basic rights that the students just did an excellent job reciting, were added to our plan of government. And once the Bill of Rights were added to the document, the delegates were satisfied. The most famous part of our Constitution is the opening paragraph called the preamble. Now, will you all stand as you are able as our students recite the preamble to the Constitution?
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
You may be seated. Great job. Thank you, everyone. And now the chorus will sing for us Constitution Day. really good. I like that song. Now, once the Constitution was written, the delegates signed the Constitution. Now, I'm going to call the states' names and have them sign. Might take a little while. A lot of states. First up, Delaware. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Oh, there was another microphone on somewhere. Maryland is next. Next up, Virginia. North Carolina. South Carolina. Georgia. New Hampshire. Massachusetts. Connecticut. New York. New Jersey. Pennsylvania. Where can I get one of those? After the signing of the Constitution, the meeting was finally adjourned. The first Supreme Court Justice, John Jay, will be portrayed by District Attorney Scott Ballard. He witnessed the signing, and I'll introduce him to you at this time. John Jay is going to talk to you about the significance of the Constitution.
What a great job y'all did. I'm not in costume, so you're going to have to use your imagination. pretend that I'm a boy that lives in Thomaston today, and I'm also John Jay, the first Supreme Court Justice who should have been dead 200 years ago. Okay, you ready? Hi folks, I was skateboarding down Center Street the other day, and you wouldn't believe what I found. I saw this old feller here wandering around like he was lost, like he was from somewhere else. And I brought him home with me. I said, Mom, Dad, looky what I found. So they said he could stay for a few days, so we brought him into our house, but you know, he don't really know nothing. I took him into the bathroom, and he thought it was a place for horses to drink water. He nearly swallowed his teeth when I told him what it really was. He really don't know a whole lot about nothing.
Well, thank you for that very rousing introduction, young man. I am John Jay. I was born on December 12, 1745, and in the year of our Lord, 1789, I became the first Supreme Court Justice, and I served in that position until the year of our Lord, 1795. Then I died in... We're going to have to rewrite the history books, it would appear.
I told you he was a nut. Certifiable. He's crazy as a June bug.
Young man, what gives you the right to say such things?
Well, I'm an American. I got free speech. It's right here in the Constitution of the United States.
The First Amendment to the Constitution? How is it that you know anything about such an old document? Surely the Constitution has gone away just as everything else that I know.
Dude, we dust it off and use it pert near every day.
Are you serious? Are you telling me that the Constitution is still used?
Here, I'm going to Google it for you and I'll show you right now. Here, take a look at this.
Remarkable. The Constitution still lives. What an amazing document. After all the world has changed, the principles of the Constitution still apply. It makes me feel wonderful to know that, and I'm pleased to have been a part of the early interpretation of the Constitution.
Well, dude, are you going to blab on over and over all day long? I got stuff to do.
I do need to go back to New York from whence I came. Perhaps you can teach me how to ride that board of yours.
Dude, you'd fall off like Humpty Dumpty and break into a million pieces, but let's go.
And a great man to work for. Well, I'd like to thank you all for your attention. These students have worked so hard and they did an excellent job, so let's give them a round of applause. And thank you for having me. Yes, standing ovation. It is excellent. Thank you all very much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
From Jason Wayne, if y'all can see, it's a beautiful eagle holding "We the People" to you. And from the DAR. And from the children. All the children signed this poster, and then there's a DAR poster under there. So all of y'all signed it, right? Okay. And to District Attorney John Jay, Scott Ballard. Here is his like fortune. Everything should be with it. Don't y'all think he deserves one? I think so. You give him one. And here's your poster of everybody signing that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And to where's Mr. Seymour? To Mr. Seymour from Jason for your items. I have also posters for our school that the children signed and for Mr. Seymour.
Could you all please stand and applaud the students for their work?